Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Firefighters podcast, where we seek to develop, inspire, and motivate the world of the emergency services operator through a series of wide-ranging conversations. Now, before we go any further, just hit that rate, follow, or subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to. It's a key performance indicator for us and helps us reach even more people. Now, here's what we've got for you today. Today I'm speaking with Randy James from Fire Department Coffee, and honestly, this episode is an absolute banger. Randy is a career firefighter and paramedic from Rockford, Illinois. He's served since April of 2000, and his path into the fire service started in a way that so many firefighters will recognize. It wasn't through some perfect career plan, but through a moment, a mentor, a station, and that first real taste of what it means to serve your community. From there, Randy's journey took him eventually to Ladder 5, working alongside Luke Schneider, who's the founder of Fire Department Coffee. What started as just helping out with orders during busy periods has become something far bigger. Randy is now the director of brand relationships, and he's deeply involved in Fire Department Coffee Charitable Foundation and one of the driving forces behind Rescue One. And Rescue One is where this conversation really comes to life. Fire Department Coffee is massive, and people will know them from social media and from their influence really positively on the fire and rescue service globally. But Rescue One is not just a fire truck that serves coffee. It's a disaster relief vehicle, a morale unit, a communications hub, a support system, and in many ways, a reminder that when people lose everything, the smallest act of humanity can become enormous. We're going to talk about tornadoes, hurricanes, wildfires, rural communities, first responders working beyond exhaustion, and the power of simply helping people just feel human again. We're talking clean clothes, a hot drink, a shower, a phone call home, something warm, maybe something familiar, and something that says you still matter. But this conversation also goes much deeper than Rescue One. We're going to get into service. We're going to get into young people entering the job and why the fire service needs leaders, not just managers. And let's not forget how coffee has become the vessel that carries this whole mission. Randy's awesome. He's super humble. He's sharp. He's funny. He's really passionate and absolutely committed to doing the right thing for the right reasons. And that absolutely relates to my experiences with the whole team from Fire Department Coffee. People can go back to one of the early episodes. We had Jason on. I'm hoping we're going to get Luke in the future. And these are just some incredible people gathering together to do something really meaningful. Yes, this is a conversation about coffee, but more than that, it's about dignity. It's about purpose, definitely about community, and the kind of people and firefighters we should all be trying to become. I'll see you on the other side. So how was the rest of the time in Germany, man? Since, we had that bit of an afternoon, saw you guys. I was blown away to see you first and foremost, because obviously we did stuff with Jay ages ago. And for people that have never been to Intershoots, because they're like every 4 years, you just stumble across things and go, oh, Jesus, like that's that person or that's that company or, you know what I mean? There's so many mind-blowing stuff.
Yeah, there was so much of that. The firefighters in Europe and at Intershoots that know our brand and story a little bit, there was a lot that didn't, there was a lot of real estate between you and me, but it was so cool. Is that the real truck? Is that the truck we see on TV? Is that the truck we see on YouTube? And it's like, yeah, this is the real truck. So no, the trip was great. And conversation interactions like you and I had, we're able to tell a little bit more about the story,
How did you manage to get the truck over there? I know it sounds obvious, but talk me through the marathon before the like, because it was kind of a deployment, but also not. It was obviously, there was nobody, it wasn't a disaster zone, but you still brought everything with you. So it must have been, you had a big team there as well. It must have been a heavy lift.
Yeah. So about 3 years ago, so Rescue One project has been about 4 years in the making. And, obviously Rosenbauer is a huge partner with us in that project. Well, about 3 years ago at FDIC, which is the largest convention in the U.S., the Fire Department Instructors Conference, a little bit different format than Intershoots, but, a lot of the same concept, but nothing like the scale of Intershoots,
Intershoots is bigger, but I feel like FDIC speakers is the better part of FDIC. They do the speaker bit a lot better.
Yeah, there's a lot of training and classroom stuff the first few days, and the convention is really only 2.5 days, But the truck is always in Rosenbauer's booth, and we serve coffee out of it on the show floor, and people get to come hang out with the truck and Jason and Fenton and Natalie, some of the cast that we have. And I say cast, but we're all real firefighters, so.
Well, Fenton is more of a cast, isn't he? Jason is Jason as much as he has the performative side of what he does. His name is still the same, he's Jason.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because Fenton says I picked the worst. I picked the worst gig to go with. He says my lip is all itchy at the end of the week, and it's a little raw from the adhesive. He said I picked the dumbest little shtick that you could do,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, it
But
is
so they
crazy when
said
you
to me,
you you
"Hey,
you choose something that hits so big, and you're like,
now
oh,
you're
well, that
stuck."
shit, that's me then. I guess that's who I am now.
Yeah, now you're stuck. Well,
Yeah.
Rosenbauer said to me, "Hey, would you ever consider? Do you know what Interschutz is?" And I said, "Of course I do." I said, um, "I do know what Interschutz is." And they said, "Would you want to go serve coffee and be a part of our booth at Interschutz?" And I remember standing there, Pete, trying to figure out like I don't understand how we get a fire truck to Germany, like, and they said, "Well, what we would do if you want to go is we would put it on a ship out of the port of Baltimore." Where a lot of heavy equipment leaves the US if it's going overseas. And then you would fly in and be a part of our booth that week. And we want to give back to our fans in the Rosenbauer fan zone. You can serve coffee and let people hang out with the truck and talk about the mission to Rescue One. And that was it. It started 3 years ago, that conversation. And after several meetings, up until, a few months ago even, and then away it went.
Rosenbauer are really good at execution, I think. It's a really
Yeah.
well slipstream sort of team. I mean, it's a big company, obviously, but it's not a massive team. It's incredible how efficient and effective their operators are. I remember when I went out and drove their brand new electric Panther, the Panther Electric.
Yeah.
And like the execution and how slick that was. We went to this it's like a private racetrack in between two mountains. It was like some like billionaires play area. It
Playground.
was crazy. I
Nice
don't know who
playground.
they'd like borrowed it from for the day, but it was like a test track for other stuff, and it was so picturesque. And the middle of the day, they had like a massive marquee on top of the garages where all of the supercars like were, and then the Rosenbauer was out the front, and we were just blitzing around in it. And yeah, that team is just like
It's incredible.
solving problems, which is kind of brings me back to that Rescue One analogy, really like
Yeah.
solving problems. I think that's why Rosenbauer do so well in the fire sector, because they get that mindset of the fire sector, which is we're
It's
problem solvers.
exactly the right partner for the Rescue One project, and
Yeah, man.
and the reason I approached them about it was because another a person that worked there, a salesman friend of mine who I met through some coffee stuff, said, as I explained to him my dream of this outreach vehicle to serve both communities affected and firefighters and first responders serving at these disasters, I said, "I have this idea of this build," and he said, "You know who I think might want to partner with you on that?" And I said, "Who?" He said, "Rosenbauer." He said,
Mm.
"They're not afraid to challenge the norm. They're not afraid to embrace different technology and see if it works and if it doesn't." And I said, "Well, that's who it's gonna take, that's gonna trust this coffee brand on this huge, execution of a pipe dream." And that's
Mm.
who I went and approached, and that's who said, "Yeah, we wanna do this."
But in the same respect, like as much as the fire department coffee team, on the face of it, and I'm assuming it is extraordinarily fun as well. There's a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of fun. There's a lot of joviality. There seems to be a lot of trust and freedom for the team members. But also, it is a very high performing culture. So again, they get stuff done. They
Yeah,
really do get shit done.
yeah.
And like was it Luke that you met at Ladder 5? Is that where it started with you?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Luke
So
Schneider, our CEO. Yeah.
how did that get started for you? Because you joined, is this your 26th year?
Say it again?
Is this your 26th year? You joined 2000, didn't you?
I joined the fire service in April of 2000.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So take us from there to Ladder 5.
oh, yeah. It's from the beginning of my career?
Yeah. What made you want to
Oh,
join?
yeah. So I stumble into the fire service. I'm an 18-year-old kid in high school who got, I had a couple Division III football opportunities, but my grades were junk. I just didn't study. I didn't care about school. I wanted to play sports. That's what I wanted to
Mm.
do. And this friend of mine says, "Hey, I think I'm going to join the volunteer fire department in our hometown," which is about 3,000 people, Pete. So it wasn't a very big town. And I'm like, he's like, they need help. Do you want to? And I said, "Nah, I'm not really interested." And then he said, "I think Mr. Marshall, who was our principal," he says, "I think he'll let us leave class if we got a call." And I'm
I'm
like,
in.
now you're speaking my language. Now, yes, now I'm interested. You had me at leave class." And so we
Yeah.
go down there, three of us, and ask Mr. Marshall if we can join if he would let us leave class if our pagers went off when we had a call, and he gets up and he closes the door. And this is one of those life-changing moments for me. He closes the door and he says, "Hey, there's no more honorable duty than your civic duty serving your community. But if I catch you guys jacking around and not coming back to school when your duty is done, you're all in deep shit." And that is, that's back in the day. When I was in high school, I'm 51 years old. Our teachers it wasn't grab you by your ear and drag you out of the room, put hands on you a little bit.
Yeah.
When you were out of line. And I don't condone that, but I certainly understood we knew where the lines were drawn, right?
I think the poison's in the dose, and I think certainly we've gotten too soft in
Yeah.
a lot of ways. Soft is maybe the wrong word, but I also think because of some horrific stuff that some parents have done to their children, we also get a bit too involved in how people parent their kids now.
Yes.
We're overstepping. We're coming over the threshold of people's homes and telling them what they can and can't do with their kids. Now, obviously, when it gets to the extremes, 100%. No one should be beating kids, throwing babies around. Shouldn't be doing any of this horrific stuff that some. But we were kind of, maybe we weren't perfect at stopping that 40 years ago. But we were still all agreed it was wrong, and when it was identified, it was dealt with in legal action. Now we're stepping over the threshold for some ridiculous stuff. You know, like if your kid wants to say this or that, that's absolutely okay, and you're like, no, I think that's really weird and not healthy for my child at that age. But anyway, talk to me about they let you go out of school, to respond to your alerts.
Well, so when we turned 18,
I don't think we do that at all in the UK. I don't know if you'd be able to do that in university. I didn't go to university, so I don't know. Today's episode is proudly supported by PBI. For over 40 years, PBI has been trusted and proven in the fire service, protecting what matters most, firefighters. PBI develops high-performance protective fabrics designed for the realities of the fire ground, with a focus on flame resistance, low thermal conductivity, break-open protection, durability, and comfort. Because when conditions change quickly, your PPE has to do more than just look the part. It has to perform again and again under heat, stress, wear, and real operational use. We're incredibly proud to partner with PBI because their work sits exactly where this podcast lives. Firefighter safety, education, innovation, and helping crews better understand the protection they really rely on every single day. To learn more, visit PBI Products and explore the science behind the fabrics protecting firefighters around the world. Let's get back to the show.
So the way it was here, when you were 18 years old, you were an adult and you could sign your little contract with the volunteer department, and then, so what we would do is the pagers would go off and we'd go to the station. Now, we weren't on a fire truck for 6, 8, 9 months. But what we were doing was when all the trucks were out and the guys were on the call, we would sweep the bays, we would empty the trash. If there was dirty equipment, when they got back, we would help them put the truck together, learn where stuff went, and then we would go to night drills. So during the week, then we would do 2 or 3 drills a week, showing up at the station, showing us how to put gear on, showing us how to use an SCBA. And then after about a year, we were actually able to go on calls. But so we would leave school when the pagers went off and go do those tasks at the station, keeping everything clean and making sure.
Do they still do that now?
Yeah, they can. You could.
Mate, that's fantastic. Like, I don't know why we have like fire cadets here in the UK. But they kind of go on a weeknight. I did it for a bit with them, helped out. They come on like a Wednesday night, different stations around the country, and they'll just do they'll do 2 hours of drills, and they'll have like mini stuff. They'll have like a triple X ladder, so they won't have the big ladders. They'll have, some do have small SCBA, they have second-hand fire kit and all that sort of jazz. But actually being able to join the firefighters on like an apprentice, I mean, we do apprenticeships in the UK, but you can only do an apprenticeship after the age of maybe 21, and that is a full-time employment apprenticeship. So I just think it would be so good for the youth, because all of the lessons you have to, most of the best lessons I think are like caught rather than taught, and the lessons you would catch from being around those people and being shown stuff and taught stuff, and actually, like you just say, getting the kit off and helping them clean it, because the firefighters wouldn't mind you doing that as well.
Oh, they'd be like,
right, you got to clean this and re-grease it. And also, firefighters' favorite subject is telling you how much they know. So like they'll love to have some kid just like wide-eyed listening, and they're
Yeah,
like, let me tell you everything about this break and entry tool. Let me tell you
yeah,
everything about this SCBA. Let me just tell you about the job we just went on. We just use this. That's why you're cleaning it. And the
yep,
inspiration that people would get from wanting to then develop into a career of a full-time
yes.
firefighter. I
That's
think
what happened to me.
we're missing the massive
Yeah,
picture there, because we're
yeah.
petrified of like health and safety, and or we don't want to make it look like we're, kids are doing manual labor for
Exactly.
low pay, and we're like, you're missing the big picture here,
You're
folks.
missing the big picture.
Yeah, man.
In the careers that we have, Pete, I need these kids to engage for 30 years for this community that they're gonna serve, right?
Mm,
So if you don't wanna start planting that seed at 18 and take the time to nurture it for a little bit, I get it. It's not your end goal is having 18-year-old kids on fire trucks. Your end
mm,
goal is to have kids that are 23, 4, 5 that are well-adjusted, seasoned, know this is what they wanna do, and then work for you till they're 55 or 60. But you've gotta
mm,
start somewhere. And that's what attracted me, I stumble into this. I'm at this station now during the week, and I'm like, I finally feel like this is what I'm supposed to do. I think I'm supposed to be a firefighter.
mm.
And then from there, I got on that department. We ran an ALS ambulance. So in the States, it's you have your obviously your basic level ambulance and then your paramedic level. This small community that I had a very large assisted living complex. So we had a lot of medical calls because we had an older community. They ran a paramedic ambulance, so then I started going to EMTB school,
Nice.
intermediate school, get to paramedic school. So for 6 years, from 18 to 24, I do that, and then I start testing pretty hard and get
Mm,
and land in Rockford, Illinois, 1 hour west of Chicago. We're the second biggest fire department in Illinois. We're running at that time, we were running 17,000 runs a year out of 11 houses. We have the
mm.
same 11 houses, and last year we did 34,000, and we went down in manpower,
34,000.
So, we have
Jesus.
challenges here just like everybody, but I end up, from where we started, I end up meeting Luke Schneider, who's our
Yep.
CEO of Fire Department Coffee. I'm his driver, he's my backseat guy in ladder 5, and
Nice.
I'm watching this kid passionate about coffee. He's got a great character. He's a spiritual kid, um, very faith-based in everything he approaches. And what the deal was we were still an e-com business just starting, or he
Mhm.
was, and, he had no retail footprint, but during the holidays, he would see the orders spike, and he needed people to help ship packages from about November till February, but he didn't wanna hire somebody and then fire him when it
Mm.
got slow. So he said, "Hey, if you know of anybody that would help me that but I have to let him go, it's only a temporary." And I said, "I'll start." I said, "Luke, I'll help you. I like what you're doing." And that was the be careful what you wish for, Pete. No, I'm
Well, yes
joking,
and no.
but
It's going to be a lot of hard work, but when you're doing it with good friends and you can commit
yeah,
to a purpose like
yeah,
that, I imagine it doesn't feel like hard work. The
no.
the kind of my mind is stuck for a second, just on this service element of, because it also ties into the rescue one. Like public service conscription.
Yeah,
Do you think, I'll get off this point in a minute, but it's literally just stuck in my head because I feel like it's a valuable thing to talk about. Do you think we should do like conscription, where like in the US you have voluntary military conscription, and um in other countries there's still like mandated conscription where kids should have to do a year or 2 years in something, whether that's ambulance, fire, military,
oh, man.
whatever. Because I keep thinking whether or not, well, I'm very confident that society actively building that service mindset into people, then when it comes to disasters, you quickly find out who understands service and who's waiting to be helped or waiting to be told what to do. And I just feel like it teaches so many people some life skills. I just wanted to tie that loop up,
Oh,
because I
yes.
think I don't want us to brush over what it what it requires to create people like you and Luke and others, because you did this thing so early. And I know we don't want to mandate it, or we think we don't want to mandate it on kids, but most kids when they're 17, 18 don't know what the hell they want to do with their life anyway. And I
Yeah.
just feel like a year or 2 years doing the kind of stuff that you were doing would be
Yes.
so powerful.
We have a huge thing in the United States where, service isn't taught in the schools. And when I say service, I don't just mean police, fire, military. I mean, carpenters, electricians,
Trades.
those type of service industries aren't looked at as legitimate opportunities or employment. There's no traditional schooling, very little in the U.S. that is teaching those things as avenues of a career. And they're all based on the same thing, helping
Mm.
mankind. I don't care if it's electrician or nursing or firefighter. There's an element to that we're missing by not
Mm.
instilling it or exposing these kids to it and letting them see, oh, that feels good to me. I want to do that. And now what are we lacking in the United States? Electricians, plumbers, carpenters, policemen, firemen, military. I
And
mean,
also people that can just handle themselves when you face the inevitable life disasters. There's so many people that are like walking victims. You know what I
yes.
mean? They're just waiting to be a
The
victim of
recruitment,
something.
retention, and all of those categories I just named, it's a
Yeah.
problem. And,
I get there's an
um
argument that we need to pay them more, but also I think there's a deeper argument because in the UK services, when we think about on call and retained and the voluntaries that we see, because people still can't wrap their head around. Sometimes we go to Australia or America, the genuine volunteers who do it for free, and that is
yes,
purely you are just pulling on their moral values of wanting to help their community. And it's
yep,
beautiful that they have them, but I don't think we can assume that all of the next generations are also going to have that. I think I'm going to do it just because it's the right thing to do and it's good for my community. If we said it was a thing of value, we should we should pay them, and B, we
yes,
should ingrain that mindset from when their brain is still becoming malleable and made into
yes,
the concrete mind that they will have as an adult. We need to get that
yeah,
service in there then. You know what I'm saying?
yes, 100%,
I think it's crazy.
100%, yeah.
So Luke, when he first started this, because Luke was US Navy before, wasn't he?
He was. He
Yeah.
was.
So
Yeah,
a
so
lot
that's
of people don't
huge.
know who Luke is.
Yeah, you don't see him much. You don't see
No.
Luke. He's
Which is
kind of
maybe
the
the sign of
mystery
a great
man.
leader.
Yeah, yeah, he's, uh, pulling the strings behind the scenes and making this. And he's a visionary and but uncomfortable in front of the camera, and so he just takes that backseat role and is our conductor a lot of the time and built a business. But yeah, so his story is shipboard fireman in the Navy. And he says, so it was coffee all night to stay up and make sure the ship was safe and everything's good. And then he gets out of the Navy and meets his wife, Kate, and she's a barista. So coffee, coffee, coffee. And then he gets on the fire department. And what do? We drink coffee all
That's the
day up
baby.
until midnight. And so that's when he just started experimenting with like a tabletop hot air roaster that he would bring into the station and try roasting some green coffee and
Mm.
messing around. And he comes up with a blend that's our medium roast. And we're just like, hey, there's coffee at the station. I bet the stations would start buying from you. And he started selling at farmers markets and craft fairs and then rebranded as Fire Department Coffee. He said, it just feels natural. I want to build a
Yeah.
foundation, a charitable organization around this. And let's see
It's
what
great when
happens.
you have a name that you don't have to explain.
Yeah,
That's like,
yeah,
I mean, you'll know as, head of brand relations, you're like, if you have to explain it to someone, you failed. It's fucking,
yeah,
you shouldn't
yeah.
have to, don't come up with something that's so complex and clever. You're like, oh, we've got some coffee specifically for the fire department. They're like, what's it called? Fire department coffee. So
Yeah.
when I say it to people, I'm like, yeah, we run a podcast that's just to speak to firefighters all over the world. They're like, oh, what's it called? Firefighters podcast. It's like just
Yeah.
like it's not
Oh,
Pete
yeah,
Wakefield show. It's some
yeah,
random shit. It's just
yep,
firefighters podcast is easy.
yeah, yeah. It
So what was it like having a front seat to watching Luke and obviously all the people involved, but certainly like seeing from where Luke's came from and the team.
huh,
But like let's take a hats
yeah,
off to Luke for a second.
yeah.
Watching him build to it is globally recognized, globally known for quality, for humor, but also supporting firefighters who are sick, injured off the job, facing serious health challenges. This must have been mad to see because there's so many growth challenges going through a business like that.
Oh, we're still in 'em, Pete. We're
Always.
still, in the category that we're in, CPG category of like food and beverage. It's so challenging and competitive, But yeah, it's a huge blessing to be a part of something that's grown and been supported, and to see internally. I think all of us are going to have opportunity. I don't know when this stops. I don't know where the top of the mountain is, but it's a huge blessing in my life to impact communities, impact firefighters, go to Germany, go to
Hmm.
Interschutz, have a
Crazy
reception
stuff.
there,
Yeah.
like that will never be we're firemen. Just
Yeah.
like you have an opportunity, you have these, and it's like sometimes you shake your head and go,
Mate,
I just wanted
I
to be
am
a
in so
fireman
many rooms where I'm like, oh, what the hell am I doing in here?
all the
Someone is
time,
going to
all
realize
the time.
I am like a
Yeah.
nobody in a minute.
Yeah,
You
I'm
know what
down
I
in
mean?
Bentonville, Arkansas at Walmart headquarters sitting in a room, and Luke I'm in the front row of this auditorium where they have all these large brands and people there
Yeah.
aspiring to get on shelves, and there's Jason and Luke on the stage. I'm in the front row, people are taking I don't even know. I'm just a fireman from a
Mad.
small town.
MSA are supporting us on today's podcast, and I chose to partner with them because I've been wearing this stuff for nearly 20 years, and they are the global leader in development, manufacture, and supply of incredible, safe products that really protect people, not just our communities out there, but also first responders, most importantly, all over the world. Get yourself over to MSA and have a look at it. The high performance protective clothing for emergency services responders. They also partner with us on the UK Pink Firefighters. That's because we love them. The helmets with the reflective visor, the F1XF, absolutely epic helmet. And not forgetting how they improve firefighter safety through their connectivity in the connected firefighter platform. MSA are always pushing the envelope, and it's a real privilege to be able to continue to grow our partnership together. So whether it's your PPE, your bunker gear, your helmets, your SCBA, your thermal imaging, your Luna, or your portable gas detection, both of us know that this equipment needs to work. It needs to be high quality, reliable, and dependable in the moment. And that's why I use MSA, because they know what's at stake. What do you think it takes for that kind of self-belief, both for Luke and for Jason? Jason's story is a little bit, people won't know. We had Jason on like 5 or 6 years ago. We'll have a chat with him again at some
Yeah,
point,
you
no
gotta get him
doubt.
back on.
But Jason's evolution as well has been equally crazy. Is there something about the purpose behind Fire Department Coffee that maybe has given people those extra gears of passion and determination and resilience to take it to what it is now? Because it's not just, you're not selling straws to McDonald's. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? There's something different about what you're doing and the reason for wanting to do it. Because you said about like, when is the end? When is the summit? I
Yeah.
imagine for you, it's similar to me, but in very different worlds. You keep getting to things and it's like a false summit, because you get to that summit and then you look on there and you're
What's
like, oh,
next?
wait, no, wait, there's a higher mountain over there and there's a higher mountain there. And then, when
What's
you
next?
started the
Yeah.
charitable sort of foundation
Yeah.
within Fire Department Coffee, then that opens up so many more things that you realize, well, Fire Department Coffee is just a vehicle. And there's loads of seats in this vehicle and we can do so much good now that we've got this thing. But like, that has to first get its own altitude in order to do those things, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely, man. I just came back. Rosenbauer put this fire truck on a ship. Like, if you had ever thought, if I could go backwards, does that ever enter my mind? No, so it's like, just like you said, like there's this next plateau, and then
Yeah.
that where do we go? I think what's helped make it successful is all the things that you and I live, breathe, try to teach in
Mhm.
service, in public service. Hey, don't think too much of yourself here. Every one of
Mhm.
these things that your challenges is an opportunity. So don't complain. There's somebody worse than you.
Yeah.
Get up every day. Somebody's counting on you. Help each
Mhm.
other up when things get tough here in the business. Don't hang your head. Nobody wants to hear it. The people that call you and that are relying on you, the people out in this warehouse, I'm at the warehouse, they'll be showing up here shortly, busting their butt. They don't want to
Mhm.
hear about they're here.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
your customers, people
Mhm.
want to spend money with you, you treat them right. If there's a problem, you fix it,
Mhm.
right? End of story. So all those things of how we teach our young firefighters as they come into the service, if you apply that to your business, and that's why you see
Mhm.
so many successful veteran-owned, military-owned, first
Oh, yeah.
responder-owned businesses that are successful, don't make this too complicated. Now,
Mhm.
that road, Pete, we talk about it all the time. That road might be a little slower to hoe
Mhm.
than all of a sudden taking this, "Oh, this looks shiny over
Mhm.
here. This could speed things up over here. This
Mhm.
could generate a ton of money if this goes ri—" No,
Mhm. Mhm.
we found Hey, we've taken those detours sometimes that thought we're right, they're not.
Mm,
Just stay on that steady, slow, treat people right, you
mm.
know, um, take care of business, help each other out, and that
This
is
has been
you
the
build that foundation
mm.
on stones like that, it's very firm, you know?
Has to take a remarkable amount of self-control to do that though, because I always say like fast success builds ego and slow success builds character. This is probably the second year we've had to start saying no to I mean we've had to say no to lots of things over the years, but this last
Yep,
2 years since we've started working with some partners, do you know what
yep,
I mean? I like big companies, Rosenbauers and MSAs and all
yep,
these other people. We've had some wonderful, crazy, weird offers that, like, if you were just stars in the eyes, shiny, shiny, it'd just be yes to everything. Oh my god, yeah, oh god, yeah.
yes,
I'm busting my
yes,
ass, editing shit at 3 a.m, and spending time away from my missus and my kids and driving here and there just to like promote some firefighting event, but not getting paid for anything. And you just want to say yes to everything, but
yep,
you have to have a real discipline to go like, what does that say about us? What does that say about me? What does that say about your your values and your ethics and the brand? Like if some random like McDonald's, I'm not picking on McDonald's, but
yeah,
like
yeah,
if
yeah,
bloody whoever, if just
yeah,
fucking some weird company came to us, hey, well look, I'm like, what's the point? How does that got anything to do with helping firefighters learn and develop? What
yep,
on earth has that got to do with it? I get it's got money behind it, but
yep,
what is it? Do you know what I mean? Because I'm sure if you'd have put an advert out and you guys were like, "Hey, we need a vehicle to help with charitable response," at the level you were already at, you would have had a lot of the big motor companies come and have
yep,
a conversation with you. But there's something unique about doing it, circling back to Rosenbaum, because you even said, like, in fact,
yep,
let's go there. Like, talk me through what Rescue One actually is, because you walked me around the truck, and
yeah,
we'll put that video out around the same time as this, so if people want to catch a visual of it,
yeah,
they'll have us good look. But like, you gave them a brief,
yep.
and like what they came up with was pretty incredible, and that's built. You've built and built and built on that after every disaster. Like, what does the current setup look on Rescue One now?
Oh, yeah. It continues to grow just because of what needs you find that you have after every deployment. But right now, so where I'm located, right in the middle of the US, it's Midwest storms, and that's what I had was exposed to with my work here, volunteer, and then full-time career for 27 years. Storms, there's some rural areas where people don't have electricity, and so my thoughts were, and even to go back a little farther, we had a tornado. This was before Rescue One, when it's just an idea. Had a tornado in Edwardsville, Illinois. And I come into work the next morning after getting off shift, and the first order I go to fulfill has an address in Edwardsville, Illinois, and it was a pretty significant storm. So I grab a pen and I write on that purchase order. I said, "Hey, we're thinking of you. We're praying for you in Edwardsville. Keep your chin up. Everything is going to be better." Fold it up, send it off. Well, about a week later, I walk into the office and the girls are like, "Hey, did you write something on an?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "It went to Edwardsville." She said, "The lady called customer service crying." And I said, "Really?" And they said, "Yeah. She just got off the phone before you got here." And she said that meant a lot. It was a police officer's wife, I believe. She said, "People don't understand how that affects everybody. So to get your note right after that meant a lot." And so it just started instilling in this thought that I had that, and we would send coffee to fire stations,
Mm.
over the years. We would send, you and I talked about it, at the truck. We would just send, we didn't have money, we didn't have resources, but we could send them coffee. I know the guys had coffee on at the stations. And, you and I have been there, right? Just keep
Oh
it
yeah,
brewing. It's going to be a
you need
long night,
you need it, baby.
and so I just thought, what if we could send hands and feet? What if we were in a position to actually go take that coffee, you serve with these first responders in a non-mitigation role, right?
Mm.
Just support for them and these community members that are affected. And so that's how Rescue One starts. But like I said, built it out for Midwest storm. So it's got a very large PTO driven generator. So I could power this whole building. I could power your
Mm.
block, with the truck. So I can reestablish power for people. One of the things we lose in these disasters that I've seen over and over again is people lose their dignity. Not only
Mm.
their homes, possibly loved ones, but the one impactful thing where you and I can immediately make a difference, and first responders in all their communities, is protecting people's dignity. I can't rebuild their home, can't bring that loved one back, can't get their insurance agent there faster, but in that moment when they're not clean, when they're not comfortable, when they're hungry, when they're sad, when they're cold, when their bellies, need to be, they need nutrition, I can do those things. And so what we did is I have an on-demand hot water heater where I can set up a shower. So people could actually, if you're on a well in a rural area in the US and you're without power, you can't brush your teeth, you don't have any potable water, you can't flush your toilet, I have a washer and dryer. So not only can I give people clean clothes that I carry and get them in something clean and dry, instead of taking their clothes and throwing them in the trash, is it a bigger gesture if I can just
Might be the
actually
only
say,
thing they have left
yes, what if
that
that's
is actually
it?
theirs.
And I've seen it. It is true. People say, oh, that can't, it is. Western North Carolina was a huge validating trip for Rescue One because of the scope of the damage and destruction. Those washers and dryers ran a lot up there, and you watch it change people's, what they're feeling. This is going to get better. This
Especially
will
for
get
families,
better.
but like for children as well. Like if I said, oh, I bought my daughter a dressing gown 10 years ago and she loves that goddamn thing, how much is the dressing gown worth? Well, it was worth 40 quid when I bought it. No. You ask my daughter how much that dressing gown's worth.
Yeah,
Priceless.
it's
Priceless.
irreplaceable.
You cannot put a price on that. It's got a bite mark on the bottom of it where one of our puppies that we haven't got anymore bit a hole in the bottom of the, it's a story.
Yeah.
It tells a story, that dressing gown. It's in so many pictures from
Yeah.
when when she's had an accident or when whatever. Do you know what I
So
mean?
what if
That for
that
her.
outfit that person's wearing at that tornado is the last thing their parent bought for them before he
Yeah,
passed?
exactly.
What if?
Exactly.
And I
Plus
get
it's
it. It's not
theirs. It's
what's
theirs.
that?
It's theirs. Do you
It's
know what I mean?
theirs.
It's that the
It's not
one
in,
thing
yeah.
identifying them
Yeah.
as them. I'm not a refugee in some second hand-me-downs.
Yeah.
I'm fed, I'm watered, I'm back in my own clothes, I'm ready to go. I can at least believe that, the world and karma and society is
Something's gonna get
showing up
better.
for me. Yeah, and
Something's
something's gonna
gonna
get
get
better.
better. Yeah.
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 Everybody
So
knows the value of that.
yeah. The large volume coffee brewers, obviously, they're commercial coffee brewers. I can
Yeah.
do hundreds of gallons of coffee. That's got hot water spigot. I carry food that I can just bypass the brewers and have boiling water and make nice warm meals for people. Socks, clothing items, toiletries, hygiene kits. I have hundreds of kits packed up that have been donated to us with deodorant, toothpaste,
Did you get the
toothbrushes.
microwave set up?
Yeah, there's plugs in there. I can put a microwave in that. We
Did you
carry
get
one
one
that
though?
will
You
load it
remember when we
on
were
it
out there, you
and
were saying
deploy.
you were looking for some.
Yeah, yep, so
You
you can
managed
do
to
a
get some.
microwave. I have
Yeah.
refrigeration on the truck.
Mhm.
Um, and then a shelter, a rapidly deployable shelter. I could actually get people if it's inclement weather, I could get them out of the weather,
Yeah.
get them warm, get them dry, get them fed, and then just start working. Okay, who do we need immediately for your resources? And
Mhm.
and what's very cool is when these incident commanders, guys running these incidents, even large scale, when they realize this truck is not there to mitigate, I'm not coming in as some cowboy going to take over your community's scene, Pete. Like that would be threatening to me as a firefighter.
Yeah.
I'm there
Plus,
as
it's
a
just a
resource.
hazard. You're
Yeah.
like you're freelancing.
Yes.
You're wandering
Yes.
around into areas I don't want you to
Yep.
be in. Work with us. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. I want you, Pete, to say, hey, I'm mitigating, dealing with whatever this is. But if you go over to these guys over here, they're going to get you comfortable and they can
Mhm.
start taking care of your basic needs right now. And
Mhm.
the guys that I leaned in on this project that I would ask, one of my friends, Jeff Altoff, who I got hired with, he just retired off of our department as a battalion chief. But he said, Randy, when people lose their basic needs, their needs stay basic.
Oh,
And
mate.
so
Yeah.
we are, and that just resonates with me. You're right. If you look at all the stuff on this truck, there's some technical stuff, but if you want to know what we do most of the time, Pete, it's just reestablishing some humanity to people when they've lost it all,
Mhm.
and it continue. We get phone calls and letters. Hey, we saw you we stopped and talked to you in Laurel County, Kentucky during our tornado. It meant a great deal to see you coming into town to support our community. You know, it it's not the grandiose things we do with Rescue One. Really, it is
Yeah.
reestablishing a human connection, And I wrote an article in a magazine. The fire service was built, you and I were built on mitigation and getting ready for the next one.
Hmm.
That's what we have to do.
Yeah.
That's what our communities depend on us. But there is a little spot in there where, Pete, you and I are the first ones there. We're around these people. There's small gestures we can do that don't take a lot of time. Doesn't have to
Hmm.
be on the scale of Rescue One, but
Hmm.
where you're going to impact your community by being that
Mm.
resource,
Mm. You've also got what's the comms setup you've got? Because I thought that
Oh,
was a
yeah.
really interesting one. Because like when a society loses communications, things go sideways real fast. We forget how reliant we are on that technology now.
I always say that your communication is a basic need that helps you protect your dignity. Being able to talk to your family and loved ones if you can't say what you need or that you're okay,
Can't
you know?
mobilize. You
Yeah.
can't mobilize. You can't ask for help. You can't give help. You can have all the best of intentions, but if you don't know where people are, you don't know where you're going.
Yeah.
Comms is
So
down. Everything
it's a
else.
satellite system, Eutelsat, OneWeb, and Response Mesh all kind of combined into one, and it's a private satellite system. What we initially had, there's other manufacturers out there, right? There's the one
Yeah.
that everybody knows of.
Yeah.
But what happens is that's a great system, but it's become so common for both first responders and private citizens that when you have an incident, the bandwidth gets choked down
I
and it
bet the
gets
weight on that
slow.
system's
And I've
dead.
seen
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So the OneWeb is secure, and what people can do, even if you don't have your phone, if everything went down in your house, your flood came up, you lost everything. If you can come to that truck, if you see that truck and you know that phone number from that iPad that's mounted in that cabinet, we can dial up, you can FaceTime, you can WhatsApp your
Hmm.
family, let them know you're okay, even if all the cell towers and satellite towers are down, which
Hmm.
I saw that in Western North Carolina. There was no communication, no cellular, no high-speed internet, and because the first responders, you and I are on almost on everybody's on digital radios now,
Yeah.
their radios didn't work
Yeah.
out there. And
No.
and it was kinda interesting when I was in Germany that some of the guys in that area saw that system, and they said they had a flood about 5 years ago where they had areas where the comms went down too. They said, "Same thing, we've seen it."
Hmm.
We take our
Yeah.
communication for granted. It's the only thing on our trucks, Pete, that we don't own. Like, I can spec that truck out with whatever pump size, equipment, tank size, everything, transmission, and the radio system, all that other stuff, I can determine how it works, what it is. That radio, I'm dependent on the manufacturer to make sure it
Hmm.
works. I'm depending on those towers being up. I I
Hmm.
really don't control my communication. If we think we control it, we have access to it, but my truck, I do control my comms, and I can reestablish. People can come to the truck. I can set up a mesh network where if you're close to it, you can pull the signal. You can use your own phone. You can use your own laptop. But if you've lost all those things, if you got your finger and you know that number, we can reestablish this just like this.
Willingwood Watches are back supporting the podcast, and honestly, it means a lot to me because this brand is built on real service heritage. Whether it's the melting down of the original 1920s British brass firefighter helmets, and they also use upcycled fire hose on all of their straps. It's not just design, it's about the job, and it's built into every single component. I've been wearing them for 10 years now. Found them back in 2015, actually, and they've genuinely been a part of my daily kit ever since. I've got two. I've got the Valiant, and I've got the Chivalrous as well in midnight blue. But the thing about the brand, about Willingwood Watches, it stands so different because of its story. Take, for example, their Dunkirk watch. That's not just a timepiece. It's actually built to honour the Massey Shore fireboat. I'll be honest though, the one I've got my eye on this year is the Fearless. It's more of like a field watch on the station, on the watch. It's a smaller 39mm case, compact, rugged, just feels right for the job. So you can actually get 10% off a Willingwood watch by using code FFPodcast. If you want to be part of the history and you want to wear it on your wrist, jump in the notes, check out Willingwood Watches. Let's get back to the show. I think that the setup that you guys have established with that, obviously with the support of quite a few organisations now, is
Oh,
just,
yeah.
we have some similar things in the UK, but there's almost a sad element to the fact that these often do live outside of the emergency services, outside of, we have one in the UK, they're called Rapid Relief Team. I don't know if you've heard.
Yeah.
They're based out of Cambridgeshire. I don't know if you've ever had a chance to speak to them, but they do something very similar, and they support us at a lot of charity events anyway, kind of as a way to get their awareness out there so people can utilize them. Similar in ways to like the Red Cross and stuff that you have in the
Yes.
UK. Red Cross is predominantly, obviously, physical aid, and they have a medical element to it. Whereas Rapid Relief Team is water, food, and clothing and stuff like that. Have you had much interest from international people? Because America's so enormous that there's more than enough for you
Yeah.
guys to swallow up there. But seeing you in Germany, seeing you in Europe, and also how big Fire Department Coffee as a brand is globally, like, in fact, we were talking about this when we were out there. Like, what's ways that people can get involved in something like this or set up a similar version? Maybe they're not going to, do it with Fire Department
Yeah.
Coffee, or maybe they're not
Yeah.
going to, just asking for free stuff or whatever they're doing. But like, people can look at this and be amazed, but I'm like, be less impressed and more involved. Like, if you really
Yeah.
wanted to do okay, we haven't got a Rosenbauer truck, we haven't got this, we haven't got that. What's ways that you could, if you were giving like coaching somebody on how to do their version of this,
Yeah.
how would you go about doing it?
Yeah, it's so you can be so impactful at these incidents. Like I said, the truck's real technical, but most of the time you're just bringing some humanity, and people want to know that somebody cares about what they're going through.
Mhm.
That really reaches them. But I talked a little bit about like even just having, we have a national response and Pete, like it's not like I'm rolling this thing every day, right? If
No.
this is the emergencies you and I deal with, Rescue One probably fits here in this spot. Rural areas, smaller communities that don't get support, that
Yeah.
have, storm damage, large scale storm damage, and where we could just be a quick resource that gets there. I can deploy it fast. Red Cross, Team Rubicon here in the States, all great organizations. But if we're talking to firefighters in their communities, I say put a Rubbermaid tote on your truck that has, you might not have a washer and dryer, but maybe you could put some hospital scrubs of different sizes, something dry, some
Mhm.
socks. Maybe you
Mhm.
could put 4 or 6 nice bath towels in there. So on your
Mhm.
truck, you get
Mhm.
somebody, they're wet, cold. Maybe you could throw some blankets somewhere. Maybe you
Mhm.
can throw some ready to eat meals, or you can have
Mhm.
bottled water in there and some hygiene kits.
Mm.
And that will be impactful once you're done mitigating that emergency and you're sitting there waiting for whoever rapid response team, right? Maybe those people that are there assigned to come in and help these people with their living needs, right? The needs housing, shelter, where are we going to put them up? Maybe you could take 10 minutes with them and say, "Hey, this is going to get better. We're sorry for what you dealt with. Here's some stuff. Are you wet? Let's get you dried off.
Mm.
How about those towelettes now, like baby wipes, but on a bigger level, where our
Yep.
full body wipe, where you can't take a lot of camping. There's camping necessities that people, if
Mm.
they're going to go on the outback
Mm.
and camp and they can't shower, that they have ways to clean themselves. What if we throw those in that tote, and it takes a little bit of space up on our truck? I know we're all cramped for space.
Mhm. I know.
There's not like empty cabinets on any fire truck in the world, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
because
Well, the
everything they
needs of
need, we have
society just
shoved.
get
We'll
more and more
fill it.
widespread and complex, don't they?
Yeah,
It's crazy. And
yeah.
also funding's always a massive
Oh, of
challenge,
course.
despite the
But
fact how much people wanna do it, like, the money's
yeah,
just difficulty now.
yeah, and then I just tell people in your community, you'll find organizations that are gonna have an impact right away, and a lot of it, what I've seen in every disaster we've been to, a lot of times we end up at the churches, because the church is serving that community with needs all year round, right? They know the needs of their community. They wanna help all year round, and now all of a sudden you have a disaster in that area. Those people, they respond, "Hey, we got this, we know how to do this, we can do food," right? We'll open up our church kitchen. A lot of times go to your churches, and
Mm,
they'll have a role for people to play, a as I've
mm,
seen it all over the country.
mm. Uh,
California, North Carolina, Kentucky, all of it.
I was gonna say,
Everyone.
what's, like, some of the deployments that you feel were, like, the biggest eye-opening for you guys? Because 'Cause you've done, I mean, there was the tornado, you had Clarksville, you had Tennessee,
Yeah,
there's Greenfield, I think, you had,
yeah.
Iowa, Janesville,
Yeah,
Wisconsin.
we were up there
You
a
you
little
I don't
bit,
think you were
yep.
talking about the
Laurel
Western,
County,
North
Kentucky,
Carolina one as well, weren't you?
Western North Carolina for Hurricane
And the
Helene,
wildfires as well, did you guys see some of that?
all the way out to California for the wildfire. That's 30-hour drive. Yeah.
Mate, like
Texas, the
what really
flooding in
stands out in
Texas.
some of those as things that you would I imagine they're all there to be fair, but like if you could give an example of where you didn't anticipate because sometimes the biggest ones get a lot of the political attention
Yeah.
and like people suffer most at the fringes, at the who the fuck cares about those people
Yeah,
kind of
that's where
areas.
we have the biggest impact. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the validating trip, for really what just it inspired me that, yes, this and I keep getting that, right? But
Yeah.
Western North Carolina during Hurricane Helene,
Okay.
up in the Appalachian Mountains, poor communities, some really pretty communities like Lake Lure and Chimney Rock State Park, those are vacation destinations, but still rural. And, the lack of and it does several things. You become infuriated that there's not more resources here helping these poor people,
Mhm.
and at the same time, then you feel validated because what you're able to do for them is a lot compared to what they have right at that moment. So,
Mm.
but the widespread disaster, and I would challenge your listeners to get on YouTube and search Hurricane Helene, Western North Carolina, and just look at the videos.
Mm.
That hurricane came to the top of Mount Mitchell and dumped like 30 inches of rain in several hours,
Mm.
and the mountain gave way. It had been raining in that area because the hurricane was off the coast. That mountain was saturated, and the mudslides and flooding went down every direction of that mountain. So the communities that were affected were miles and miles away from each other. And we just spent a week and a half up in that mountain going and visiting both a ton of fire stations, rural volunteer fire stations that were doing incredible work protecting their communities, seeing horrific things when that water receded with bodies and searching unbelievable topography,
Mhm.
challenging areas with little resources,
Mhm.
rescuing people with private helicopters because they couldn't get the military stuff in like just incredible. But that was a life-changing trip for us. And then California wildfires, the scope of what was going on out there, how many thousands of acres were burning right through entire cities like Altadena and, obviously Malibu, and it's like stuff happens on these trips. Like a guy came up to me, I was in the Zuma Beach, forward operating base, and he says, "Hey, my name is," I don't remember his name, I have it written down, but he's in uniform, he's in a CAL FIRE uniform, and he says, "Everybody's down here in Malibu giving them all the love because that's just where the famous people are, right? And all the money's there.
Mhm.
Everybody knows where Malibu
Yeah,
is. You're
exactly.
up here in Zuma Beach, and I know I go from Pasadena in the parking lot of the Rose Bowl Stadium back to Zuma Beach every morning and do about 60 or 70 gallons of coffee for the first responders before their morning briefing." But he
Wow.
says to me, yeah, it was crazy. He says to me,
Jesus.
hour up the road, he said, "I've got all these CAL FIRE firefighters and nobody's stopping to see them. And what they're at Camarillo Air Base, and they're in charge of all the rotary wing deployment for these helicopters, firefighting helicopters. They're in charge of the logistics for them when people request them, getting them, deploying them. And so it's like, would you go up there? They'd love to see the truck, and and I said, they're probably drinking coffee nonstop. I said, yeah, let me go take about 15, 20 pounds of coffee up there. And so I drove up the Pacific Coast Highway, one of the most beautiful roads I've ever been
Mm.
on, and wheeled in there and just said, "Hey, I just came to spend some time with you guys. You're doing great work up here." And we took some photos. I'll send you some of those photos from
Yes, please,
that
man.
spot.
I think people
And
can't really wrap their head around the scale of some of these things. I was just pulling some stuff then as you were mentioning it. So Helena, as an example, it made landfall in Florida's Big Bend on the 26th September 2024 as a Category 4 hurricane, the maximum sustained winds of 140 miles an hour. So the national death toll sat at 248, and it was the deadliest hurricane since Katrina of 2005. It later verified 107 storms-related fatalities in Helena. That is just mad. And then you look, the wildfire thing seems to be getting worse. They've got it in 2024, the US recorded 64,000 wildfires burning nearly 8.93 million acres. And then in 2025, it's boosted up to 77,850 wildfires. It is this the National Interagency Fire Center has already reported 32,000 just halfway through this year. So we're on track to go even higher again with more than 2.5 million acres burned in the US this year. Why do you think wildfires are becoming such a challenge over there?
Weather changes. We've had some dry years. It's really interesting. The weather pattern changes. It seems like the West Coast is now wildfire season almost all year round, unless
Mm,
they get a large snowfall or they get a lot of rain, a rainy season, which they haven't in a
mm,
while. The East Coast seems like like hurricane season is like almost all year round. Jason's
yeah,
down in Florida, and he's constantly talking about the storms.
mm,
And then in the Midwest, our tornadoes, we just had a tornado on the ground in Streator, Illinois, that if the truck would have been here, I would have headed down 39. It's only an hour and a half, but
wow.
tornadoes, and Tornado Alley has shifted right through my backyard where it used to be south and west of it. I think it's the weather changing,
Mm. I think it's the
and you
weather changing certainly for the hurricanes and stuff like that. I think
yeah.
forestry and land management, they've had a lot of funding pulled out of that.
Oh,
Well, when I've
yes.
had firefighters on in the past, they would say like there'd be pre-fire season where they would go and get rid of brush and cut down
Yes.
forestry, and then there was
Some
people like
regulation. Pete,
yeah,
we
and
don't
the
wanna
the Green Army
that's
were
the
like,
one.
oh, you can't be cutting down
Oh,
trees.
yeah.
It's like you
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
realize you need to manage this forest.
Yes.
You have to
Management is a
manage the
huge
forest.
deal. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so
Uh,
that was a topic too, obviously hotbed, everybody, but you have to manage those areas to
yeah.
allow people to move some of that brush and get it away, but you have these factions fighting about, "Oh, we need to have
People
that,
say
that's
stupid
in."
things where they're like, "Don't you think it was fine before we came here?" Yes,
Yeah.
you're right. I'm sure it was. Like but it would have regular fires, and there
Yes.
was no people around, so it
Yes.
didn't really matter. But if you
Yes.
still say you want to live near it, then you've got to manage it, or we
Yes.
remove all of the people from there, which I'm assuming you don't want us to do either. You don't want us
Yeah.
to displace everybody and take their homes off them.
Yeah.
So how do you square this circle? You want people to live around it, even though we know they're going to have regular wildfires. You know what I mean?
Yes.
We've got to
Can we
find a
be
way. If we want to
sensible?
continue to work with nature, then
Yeah.
both us and nature need to adapt
Yeah.
to human beings. That are, people say like there's too many people and all this sort of stuff. Well, when you start volunteering to start getting rid of some people, that's not a popular opinion either, and nobody wants to do that. So like,
No.
how do you want to? You know what I mean?
Yes,
People
can we be sensible? Can we
they
be
just they just
sensible and
bounce around these
fair?
political beach balls and don't really
Yeah.
think about the stupidity of the
Yes.
isolated points that they're making and what the
Every
ripple effects of those decisions are.
Yeah, and right, you're right, and every issue, it seems like there's people that wanna weaponize
Yeah,
every single issue.
yeah.
Please, can we just
Stop that.
and so that's another thing with these responses. Like, I've seen some of the worst things I've ever seen, and then I've also seen we are the most resilient people. Like, humans are resilient,
There's a
and
reason humans live all over the world.
when we are
We are the most
working
resilient
together.
species. Yeah.
Yes, when we are working together, we can accomplish anything, but most of the time they don't want us working together, So I
Mad.
would see this horrific situations, and then you'd see the best in humanity come in, work together, and take care of people, and it was like, so it's I always say that when I go on the deployments, the people there in the communities I serve, they do way more for me, Pete, than I do for them. I
Yeah.
come back with my perspective. I think you and I talked about this. I'm not complaining about how long my grass got while I was gone
Mm,
in Western North
mm,
Carolina.
yeah.
I just come home. And my kids and my wife say, "Oh, you had a great time." I said, "I did." I saw some horrible stuff, but I'm at peace. Um, you go do what you can do, and I'm not trying to make Rescue One out to be this large, international
Mm.
disaster
It's not
response
Thunderbirds.
vehicle.
It's not Team America. Do you know what I
No,
mean?
but
But
when I roll into these towns and some of these firefighters say, "Oh my gosh, you came down here to help," it's like, yes, you are important. You are
mm,
important too. We can't make everyone. It doesn't make sense for us to
mm.
go to everything, but the ones we go to, we're just going to come down here and you tell me where you need help.
Quick pause, because I want to tell you about a new partnership we have with First Tactical. First Tactical builds equipment for people who work when environments are seriously unforgiving. And if you go to their website, you'll find kit is designed specifically for us, for firefighters, for police officers, technical rescue teams, fire investigation, hazmat, hazardous materials teams, urban search and rescue. This is honestly the equipment that you really want to rely on. It's built for real operations, real pressure, long ass days, and I genuinely use this stuff. Here's a few of my favorites. They've got their men's Defender short sleeve. I've got that in black. It's got a huge load of specialized pockets, base for all of our gears, the pads, the pens, all of the stuff. It's got them on the sleeves on both sides. Also got the Defender pants. These have got 28 pockets in total on them. It's mad. Let's be honest, we absolutely love the bags. I use their 25-litre specialist half-day backpack. The shoulder straps as well are strong AF. Like I say, this isn't lifestyle gear. It's built for real world, real operations. We talk about the realities of the job, and First Tactical is just the ideal partnership for us. So go take a look, firsttactical.co.uk. Now back to the show. People stop themselves from giving what they have to give because they think it's not enough. I remember, I'm not particularly religious, but maybe Luke would relate to this story. Like, I remember hearing, it's probably a biblical text where they were giving out, they weren't giving out any awards, but they were recognizing the people that contribute most to this church. It's just a fable. And there was like big business owners coming into church and making enormous donations, making massive donations. And then the pastor recognized this woman as she left the church. He didn't actually acknowledge her publicly, but he said she has given more than anybody else. And they went, she only gave like $100. And he like, yeah, but that's everything she had to give. She gave everything she had to give. You give as £1 million, but that's not everything you had to give. And I'm not saying people should like have suicidal empathy where you give more than you're capable to give. But if you can give just what you're capable to, not so you're taking it away from your family, not so you're taking it away from your loved ones and your own community. But if everybody, like you say, when Rescue One shows up, it's not going to fix the whole problem.
Nope.
It can't.
Nope.
But if everybody just gave a little bit of what they do have capability to give, it's like when people go, if I won £1 million, I'd give £100,000 to charity. And I go, okay, well, do you give £10 out of every £100 to charity now? And they go, no. I said, well, you're not going to do it then. Because at every level, there's a devil. The principles are just scalable. We give a percentage of everything that comes into the podcast to Breast Cancer UK. Yeah. So we have pink firefighters and we raise money for breast cancer charity in the UK. And that is a scalable thing. So some months it's going to be a couple £100, some months it'll be £1,000. It's never going to be the same. It's based on what we are able to give. But we'll always give the same, if that makes sense. We'll always give a percentage of what we're able to give. Yeah. And if people just did that, no one's gonna fix it all. No. It's 1 million people doing the small amount that's within their capability. Yeah. But I think that's where they stop themselves from doing that. A, because they think it's not enough, and B, they don't really interpret the compound effect of many people pushing together. I always say like 1 + 1 isn't 2. If it's me and Randy working together, that might be the work of 4 or 5 people. Yep. But when you're trying to do something on your own, it can seem very difficult because that is usually where 1 = 1. But it's a bit like if you've got to, you get back from your trip and you've got to sort your garden out. If your neighbor comes round, you'll achieve way more than you both doing your own gardens on your own.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? You happen with him as he helps you with yours. And that compounding effect of people working together. It's the same with a fire engine. Yeah. You give me 3 dangerous motherfuckers on the back of the truck, really determined, really passionate about serving their community and solving the problems. We'll be way more effective than 10 volunteers not 10 volunteers, 10 paid people who don't really have a connection to it. There's something about the volunteer aspect, isn't there? Yes. Volunteers. And that's what I love about the stuff that you do. I think like volunteer organizations and like the charitable side, the foundation that you guys run, that's where you see great leadership because people aren't doing something because you're paying them to. Exactly. If you're paying somebody to do something, you've got a stick to hit them with if they don't do it. Yeah. When you're leading volunteers, that takes true leadership because you have to get that connection, don't you?
Yes. And I've been approached by, I think you and I discussed this too in Germany, but like some federal organizations. So some federal emergency organizations in the United States reached out and said, hey, I see what you did here. I was in Asheville, North Carolina during Helene, and they said, we've seen what you're doing with your effect you have on these first responders. I represent this organization. I can have it paid for. I can reimburse your fuel, your wages at your department while you're off. We can pay so that they will let you leave to do more of these. And I said, sir, thank you so much. That's so validating that you see the need for this type of outreach. I
Mhm.
said, but I will never contract with a federal agency
Yeah.
because now I lose the ability to go into that small community and do what I know where we can affect people. Right? And I don't care if it's one person, man. They're gonna want me to go, and I mean they do good. Don't get me wrong, but they're gonna want me to go to visibility, and they're driven by other outside factors other than
They're
just
optimizing for like
yeah,
sometimes they want to look like they're doing the right thing, and they still will be doing help.
they
But
will
is
be.
that where you could best be utilized?
Yes.
Likely not. They just want to make sure
Yep.
if someone's,
I know some
Los
people
Angeles
will
fire, some
exactly.
£1 billion, if Donald Trump's house catches fire or something, you guarantee you're going to get a truck there. There's going to be a
Yeah,
shitload of trucks there. I guarantee you
yeah,
that someone's going to make, even if there's no firefighters on them and there's no water, you
yeah,
guarantee there's still going to be some
yeah.
trucks there for the pictures.
There'll be a presence there,
There'll
right?
be a presence,
Be
baby.
like, they're gonna send me to this area, but I know there's poorer people in a worse situation, maybe not as many. I'm
Yeah.
gonna go there. That's where I wanna
Mhm.
be, so,
Mhm.
all those things are validating, but, we just try to deploy it, and we fund it ourselves. We don't take outs when you there's some things that when people start to fund you now, there are companies like Deployed Logics, Kraken Power,
Yeah.
Rosenbauer, obviously, JHB Group, who have donated 50 to $75,000 of equipment, each one of them, just for the mission, asked nothing in return, didn't ask to be in a video, didn't ask to be on the web.
No.
Rosenbauer has never once said to me, "You will deploy this here for this."
Mhm.
Nope. They've said, "We trust you. We believe in this mission. Go serve those people that you think need help." And
Mhm.
man, that's who, when those people partner with you, like this has already exceeded what I thought, like maybe in my head it was. Now
Mhm.
then the men and women I met when I saw you in Germany, what
Mhm.
they've said about it and the need for it there, and I'm right in Rosenbauer's backyard there. I see this growing, Pete. I do, and it's what I'm going to feed into when I retire. I got less than a year left in the fire service here. I'm gonna go.
Mate,
I'm gonna keep doing this.
that's got to be so exciting
It
transitioning
is.
into when I look at all the host of things that you guys are doing now. Obviously, we look at the name and we hear fire department coffee, but is coffee? Do you feel like coffee is the product now, or is it really the reason for building the community? If that makes sense, because obviously it
Yeah.
started with coffee, but it
Yeah.
feels like as crucial as that still is as an enabler for the great work that you do. It feels a much more than that now. The community element around this, um,
It's the engine.
is way more powerful. I think of you guys similar to the way I think of Red Bull. Now, I'm sure that'll be a backhanded compliment 'cause I'm sure there's a lot of things Red Bull do wrong. But I think I said to you when I was out there, like, you go on Red Bull's YouTube page, they never talk about Red Bull
Yeah.
because it's all about the cool stuff they're doing, the athletes they're supporting. Fire Department Coffee rarely ever talks about coffee. It's talking about the great work that it's doing, the people that they're engaging with. It's making people laugh. It's lightening people's day. It's Rescue One is going out and helping people. People forget that what you're doing is more important sometimes than what you're creating, if that makes sense. It's a
Yeah.
bit like joining an organization. It's not about what you're doing, it's about the person you're becoming. The person you're becoming doing this
Yeah.
is way
Yeah. The
more
coffee
important
is
than
the
just the
vessel.
stuff.
The
Yeah, yeah,
coffee
it
is
is,
the
isn't it? It's
vessel
that
that
vehicle,
carries
isn't
the
it? Yeah.
mission.
Yeah,
And
a vessel that carries
and
the mission. I love that.
yeah, and so Luke, when he started the company, he said, "I'm gonna build this foundation, a 501 around coffee, and I wanna give back." And he tells the story. He had a firefighter friend, Damien, who was out in California, that he met. Damien, a tree falls on him, breaks his back, so he's paralyzed. And one of the things that Damien told Luke is, "I've kinda lost my identity because I can't be a firefighter anymore." And the guys come around for a while, and then you're kind of alone. They moved on, and it's not that they're not good guys. That's the way they have to. When we lose somebody, we gotta keep going because the communities that need us, they
The
can't
mission is more
have
important
me.
than any one person, unfortunately.
Yes.
Yeah.
If we disappear, the organization has to move forward
Yeah.
in our fire
It
service
was here
because
long
people.
before us and it will be here long after us, baby. That's it.
Yeah.
Mm.
And so, but Damien said there was an immediate need until paperwork gets done where, I wanted to get my mom to the hospital get her to my clinic, let her take off some work. So Luke built the foundation around Damien. And unfortunately, about 2 years ago, Damien It's the story as old as time in our business. He took his own life. And so, but which even just made our, Luke's heart in the 501. There is a need for this. There'll always be more need than there is resources in the fire service for people needing help. And I get those requests daily, and we can't help everybody, but we're going to do as much as we can. And as we grow, we're going to help more. So we always say we're community focused and mission driven. And where did we learn that, Pete? In the fire service. That's what you and I are. That's what every firefighter that watches this or watches our content. You are community focused and mission driven, or you wouldn't be in this business. And if you apply that into your outreach, into your, initiatives outside of your business, it'll work. It'll work. Just stay true to it.
I always say that people join the first responder sector because they're outcome driven, not income driven, because you don't get paid a lot, but also you can't buy some of the things that we do.
Yes.
You literally can't buy it. You couldn't buy it as an experience. You know what I mean? Some of the places you go, places you've been invited to, there's a lot of disaster tourists, but, people don't get invited into those spaces because they don't have a skill set or they don't have a mentality or values that are actually going to add value in a situation like that. And I think that's why, when I see the stuff that you guys do, bringing people on board at the end of their careers and stuff like that, and likely for yourself, when you finish, continuing on with something like this, it's the same what you said before about, people from the military or from the veteran started organizations, because you couldn't teach somebody that stuff at university. Do you know what I mean? What it's taken to shape that person is a career that was not built on income. It's a career that was built on mission and purpose and outcome and service. Do you know what I mean? Those things, we haven't found a way just in the purely capitalist world of building those types of people. But I think it's fantastic for people to be able to see a future in doing things like this, because they can continue that service mentality. And also, with respect, it can still reward them. It can still give a sustainable life for them as long as they remain, driven, purpose-driven.
One of the things that's unique, Pete, is like I'm seeing these young kids come into the fire service. I know we could take a whole nother 2-hour podcast on that. Strengths, weaknesses, differences, whatever.
Mate, we're going to chat again. We're going to have you on again. Don't worry about that.
One of the things about these young people, and I think guys will, if you're a little bit seasoned, will be able to relate to this. They might not be, technically strong. They might not be mechanically strong, but they're passionate. These kids, you have to realize that these kids have had a phone in their hand since they could walk. So they've been, and through that phone, people have fed them with information, including news. And a lot of that news that they get is sad stories, because that's what sells. And so
it is beyond a privilege to be able to bring the Firefighters podcast to you. And we are so grateful for every single person that supports, listens, shares, and follows our journey. And to help us keep doing it, create more, reach more guests internationally, and make the podcast sustainable, we're asking for you to help. And to do this, we've set up a Patreon page. By joining our Patreon community, you will get access to every single full episode archive we have ever made. Now, hundreds and hundreds of key documents that we've got in there on fire behavior, firefighter health, cancer risks, incident debriefs, and so much more. So if you feel like you want to join the Patreon crew and help us make this possible, head to patreon.com/TFFPC or check the link in any episode podcast notes.
These are passionate kids that have seen wrongs happen to people all over since they could walk. I didn't have that growing up. I didn't have a phone till I graduated. I read the newspaper, or I would watch the news maybe. But so what it built was all these super passionate kids that want to make things right and want to help people. And then we don't teach them about the fire service, Pete. So I'm just
that's the answer to people when they're like, what do you want to do when you grow up? I want to make a difference.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what they're all
What does
saying.
that mean though? What's the vehicle for doing that? I've got it here, like be the difference. It's one of my tattooed on my thumbs. So whenever I give people the thumbs up, it always says like, be the difference on it, because this is a pathway to do something like that.
This is that I always tell these kids, do you want to help people? Do you want to make a difference in your community? Yes. I said, I have a job that'll give you 14 opportunities a day to make a difference in somebody's life every single day you come to work. And I just think, why aren't we teaching these kids that in school? Why aren't we subjecting them? Because these are passionate kids. They might not be good in a toolbox. And they might not, we
But you
can
can
make
teach them
that.
those things.
We can
They're
fix
skills
that.
based.
I tell people I was a recruiter for our department for a number of years, trying to find kids like myself that didn't just stumbled into it. And people ask me, what's the most important qualities? And people want to say, oh, you got to be 6'4" and you got to be super strong and physical. Nope. You got to have empathy and compassion for people who are less fortunate than you. And I can teach you all that other stuff. We can meld you into somebody that's physically stronger. I can teach you how to be a paramedic and a firefighter. But if you don't have empathy and compassion, you can still be a firefighter, but you're not going to be a good one.
You can always teach a skill set. I always say I'll pick a mindset over a skill set any day. Mindsets is like that's baked into your mind from the way you were raised, the influences you were around. That is so goddamn difficult because you've got to find a way to be someone that person's going to listen to, so you can reach far enough down into their blueprint to just try and move some of those really, really internal motivating factors. And if they haven't got that, it's remarkably difficult. And they may still become a high-performing athlete. They might physically look a certain way or, on the surface be able to demonstrate a certain skill set. But when stuff gets really difficult, because it doesn't matter how, much of an incredible athlete you are, what level of resiliency you think you have, when you don't think it's worth it anymore or you're absolutely on your knees, that's when, and anyone, no matter how strong you are, you'll have your limitations. If you don't have a mindset that's driven towards mission and purpose, it doesn't matter how good your goddamn pre-workout is or what your VO2 conditioning is or how intelligent you are even to a point, because those things are all exhaustive character traits. Yeah. Whereas if you give someone a purpose, they say if you give a man a purpose, he will crawl through broken glass.
Yes.
But if you just give them a pay, because I always used to make the joke of like, well, everyone's got their price. I'm like, okay, well, what's someone's price to like kill somebody or like do something horrific or like a person that's not of a certain sexuality to go with the other sexuality? And I'm like, you will find a limit to everyone's willingness to do something if you're solely going off the financial element of it. Yes. But there is no amount of money I could pay you for your child, or there's no amount of money I could pay you to betray your close friend. And if you can embed that sense of service and community into someone, there really is no limit to what their resourcefulness and their drive to fix that solution for people. And that is something that you've really got to be so intentional about teaching in those developmental years for people.
And coming into the fire service, what we're seeing is these kids are not motivated by money. They're not motivated by the same things I was, like to be able to have a great job, provide for my family. Still, I knew that I wanted to serve people, in a bigger way. A great retirement, like you say those things. No, they want to make a difference. And they're motivated by different things. And so each generation that comes into our service, we've got to figure out how to get the most out of them. And we've kind of failed. I know we have in the U.S. about, we've failed on how to figure out what motivates them and get them to understand that it is here, and I think the fire service, we are service oriented. We're not big on talking about, hey, this is what we do. We just do it, right? We don't need a pat on the back. We didn't come here to get thanked every day. So we don't like to talk about what we're doing, the things that we're capable of, but they need to hear it because they've never heard it anywhere else.
That's what I think about so much with the podcast as well, and especially with what you guys do. It's like, you throw a stick in the air on any fire station across the world, and again, certainly in the UK, you will hit an incredible person that has done 100, 200 remarkable once-in-a-lifetime things in their career, maybe more, depending on where they're based and the core profiles and all this sort of stuff. But to your point, certainly worse in the UK, I think we're very self-deprecating. We're very tall poppy syndrome. We're not going to rah-rah beat our chests. We don't put it all over social media. A lot of these people aren't going to write a book. They're not going to put their memoirs down. No. And when they retire and when they one day die, unfortunately, all of the great things they have done, and it doesn't mean they're doing it for adulation and praise of other people, but we should be shining a spotlight on it, because that is what inspires other people to want to go into that world themselves. I think we've done such a bad job globally of marketing the first responder community.
You and I have so many. This could go on for hours, but I said the way we memorialize somebody in the U.S. anyway in their funeral, like somebody stands up there and then reads all these accolades, and I go, I don't know how many times I've been to a visitation or a wake or a funeral, and somebody reads this guy's bio, and I go, why did I not know that? We should be celebrating this person while he's here. Why did we not celebrate and show his good acts and get people to engage and see if we could spread those good acts? Instead, we memorialize them after they're gone. Like, I feel like we are not doing that the right way, right?
No.
You
How
know?
great would it be if that person could have... I've tried to get into this habit in the last sort of 9 months, and I'm sure I fail at it on a regular basis. But if ever I have somebody with me, like when I was over there with George and Freddie and Liv, I try and introduce someone as though they are my best friend. And sometimes it is my best friend, but you know what I mean? Like I try and I go, hey, you know, this is Liv. What I love most about Liv, she won't tell you herself, but she is really, really, like very, very systems driven. She's a great planner. Her memory recall, she's very intelligent. Her memory recall is so sharp. She's very intentional on following up with people. And what she actually is a really great listener. Sometimes people meet her and she seems very quiet and reserved. And sometimes they can take it the wrong way. But what she is doing is listening, which most people aren't doing. Most people are just hearing and waiting for their turn to talk. She is actually listening to what you're saying. So when she says something, she means it. I always say like fools speak because they just want to fill space, whereas wise people speak when they've got something to say. When Liv says something, it's because she's thought about it. And I try and introduce people in the best light that I know them to be, because then it gives them that persona to also step into the best version of themselves, the way that I see them. And I think if we did that more, it's very cringy in the UK. When I do it to certain people, they're just a bit like, fucking hell, Pete, that was a bit fucking weird. But I'm like, but why don't we just do that to each other more? Do you know what I mean? Rather than going, hey, this is my mate Randy. Let me tell you a funny story about Randy, right? When he was a kid, he used to piss the bed till he was like 26. And you're like, why introduce him like that? I get in the fire service, that's kind of funny. But you're like, also, why don't you just say, oh, mate, I mean, my friend, he's such a savage. Like, he won't tell you, but the stuff he goes out, right? He helps run the single rescue once, part of the fire department coffee thing. Mate, the disasters he has responded to, like, I am bowled over. Every time I speak with him, he gives me just 5 minutes of somewhere he's been, and I just feel like I'm lost for words to see the impact that he's had with those individuals. To a lot of people that have been at a disaster when Rescue One have turned up, you may be the first firefighter they've ever met. And you will be part of the story that they tell. They'll go, oh, you know what? I only ever met a firefighter once. The guy's name was, I think it was Randy. And like he came there with a bunch of his team, like Jessica and there was Sam or whatever. And they did this or they did that. You will be the legacy story they tell everybody they ever meet about the fire service. When they go, hey, have you ever called the fire service? And you go, no, but I tell you what, this person showed up and they did this. Yeah. And I try and impress that on our recruits because I'm like, people very rarely ring 911 or 999. Yeah. You might be the first person they've ever met that exemplifies and is a representation of the global fire community. So really, really think heavily about the interactions that you're having with people,
and
because you're standing for more than just you.
Yeah. Every one of those interactions is an opportunity to, you know, I try to teach our young guys, hey, you're going to have this opportunity today. We're going to go on, 11 calls today. Everyone is an opportunity. You can make out of it what you want, but you know, they're not going to be grandiose things you're doing 99% of the time, but you can still impact people, you know? And so,
that's when I say we're all influencers.
Yeah.
We're all influencers. Every interaction
absolutely.
you have, I'm adding weight onto one side of the scales of your opinion of a firefighter, your opinion of me, your opinion of my family, or just not even just your opinion, but just like who we are and what we stand for. So as much as I know it's a big heavy lift and I know you're tired and I know it takes a lot of cognitive focus, but just try and be present with that person and think, even if you're just doing something small for them, to you it's small. To them, they might have been waiting for 4 or 5 days for someone to just come up and offer to wash their clothes for them.
You have no idea how that could impact them, right? We've seen, and the things I thought in my first 5 years as a firefighter to my last 5 years are about as far away as you can be on the spectrum, right? And I think, you know, and so it's like, geez, I wish I could go back, but all you can do is teach those next guys that are coming, right? I know you speak on mental health and resiliency and huge factors in what we're doing, but we can be better about those things. And all those things, if we can pass those down to these newer firefighters, we can affect that for them, active listening. One of the things, I'm taking these peer support classes through the IFF here because I'm on our peer support team in Rockford, and being a good, how I listen. I went home and told my wife after this, about 40-hour course with the IFF. And I went, hey, I'm sorry, I'm a shitty listener. And she's like, what? I said, I'm sorry, I'm a shitty listener. I understand I haven't been a good listener in our relationship, and I'm going to try to do better and not just hear you, but listen to you, and so very
There's
interesting
so many
when you're
simple
talking.
things there as well, mate. I
Yeah.
say to people, just even the difference between open and closed questions. Do you know what I mean? If you're in a command and control situation on an incident ground, you might want to be doing closed questions all the time because you're trying to filter the noise and you're just trying to get some direct information. You want some yes, no's. With your more personal relationships, certainly if you're seeking to understand rather than just seeking to be heard or understood, like if you're truly trying to listen to that person, the difference between an open and a closed question, the example of paraphrasing, demonstrating to that person that you did hear them. I mean, Randy, you just spoke about coming home, spending time with your wife, and that you felt like you haven't been a great listener before. Like, help me understand, like, what was your interpretation of not being a good listener before? That's just an example of paraphrasing back to that person that you just listened to what they said, you heard them, and you want to go deeper. Like, to tell me more. It felt like there was something else you could help me understand about. If you're happy to share it, the relationship with your partner beforehand. What does good listening look like after that? And I do it with my missus. Like, if we're sat on the bed before we go to bed, and I'm like, what would a 9 out of 10 in terms of focus and attention look like for each other? I mean, like, because we've been busy, we've been thinking about, she's a teacher, we've been thinking about work, I've just been thinking about shift, this podcast tomorrow. Like, if we tried to give each other a 10 out of 10 attention now, like, what would that look like physically, eye contact, listening? Do you know what I mean? What would that look like if we wanted to really treat each other like the most important? What if we wanted to be where our feet are? And I wasn't in the back of my mind thinking about this or thinking about that. And it's bloody hard. It's so hard to be present with that person. But it's something I've learned and continue to try and learn, like with the podcast, like being a good conversational partner. And that's a skill set, again, for first responders that will help you in all areas of your life.
Oh, yeah.
With your family, with your kids. I always think kids and families are a great personal development tool. Because if a colleague doesn't like you might be like, well, Dave's a prick. If he doesn't like me, fair enough. And you're like, well, okay. You're going to say that about your daughter? And you just go, well, she's just a dick. No, you want her to love you. You want her to understand you, and you want to teach her some of the things that you wish you'd have done differently. So her ability to care about what you've got to say. Do you know what I mean? I used to do a course on listening so that others want to speak, and how do you become that person? It's like the difference between is it charisma and charm? Like if you come away from an interaction, like if I come away from a dinner with you and you go, I met Randy this one night, and then in the next dinner I had some dinner with James the next night, and you go, when I came away from the dinner with James, I felt like he was the most interesting person in the world. But if I came away from the dinner with Randy, and after that he made me feel like I was the most interesting person in the world, then that is Randy being a fantastic listener. You're like, I don't understand how he did it, because after that, I didn't think a great deal of myself, but from the way he navigated that conversation with his emotional intelligence, with his empathy, with his presentness, boom. And anybody can do that. You don't need a tool. You don't need to buy a special thing. You don't need some AI glasses. You just need to care about the way you're interacting with human beings.
Think of the officers that you've worked for come into your station, and like I can think of two guys, same rank. They almost had the same exact years on the job. They've worked in the same positions. That one guy comes into my station. I don't care what he has to say. I don't care. The other guy, same rank, same everything in his career. If I let that guy down, I'd puke. I would be sick to my stomach if I ever did anything to let him down. So it's those things we just talked about, how they listened, how they treated us, the physical cues they were giving when they talked to you, when they interacted with you, when they were your commander. I always thought when I act up, I'm a driver, but I'm about half the time I'm in that right seat as a lieutenant, bumped up. And I always thought, if I get kids under me or young firefighters under me, I want to be that officer, because I know that for some of those guys, one of the guys, I'll say his name's Denny. If I would have let Denny Hall down, I would have been sick to my stomach, right? I would have done anything he asked me to do, because I know he trusted me, he respected me, and he wasn't going to ask me to do it if it didn't need to be done. And so that's the leader I wanted to be. That's the listener I wanted to be, in the station,
How do you think we optimize more for that? Because often we promote people, and we'll wrap this up in a minute because we're respectful of our time. It's still early morning for you.
Yeah.
But just to, sort of on a closing one, when we're looking at ability, when we look at technical ability, we look at people's ability to, haul a line or wear SCBA or read a fire, and we promote them based on exams and command presence. Like, even as busy as your department may or may not be, it's still like 10, 15% of the job might be responding to calls.
Yeah.
But the key to doing that effectively is being a good leader on station. And I don't feel like we are coaching and developing people in a manner that optimizes for good leadership, a good non-verbal communication. How do you think we do that?
What are we building, Pete? We're building managers.
I know, brother.
We have an epidemic of management in the fire service and a lack of leaders. It's 100%. An epidemic of managers. So it takes courage and it takes intestinal fortitude, and you've got to look away from what people think about you to be a leader. You don't have to do that to be a manager. And that's so. I didn't mean to cut you off, but
no, you didn't cut me off at all, man. We're going to get into that in another one. So if people look under here, we have links to Fire Department Coffee, links to Rescue One. I feel like I've read and seen a few things that you've floated this dream of sort of Rescue 2 and Rescue 3 on the East and West Coast. Is there anything we can discuss there in the closing moments?
I love the way you're thinking, bro. I love the way you're thinking. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, people ask, what do you want? What do you see out of this mission? And I said, I want it to organically grow. I want people to come into it. I want it to affect people and get them thinking about what the ways they can establish this in their communities. And if there's the right partners that want to come in and help me grow this, our disasters, east, west, middle of the country, and probably the same way in Europe, there's a different need depending on geographic location, right? The East Coast disasters are different than the West Coast, are different than the Midwest storms here. So I think we could build out rigs that offer different capabilities
100%.
Dependent on geographic location. And I'm just going to be a faithful servant. And when those talks come, man, and it's like what we talked about earlier, like, I've had some opportunities to do something now with, hey, I have this for you. You want this? And it's like, okay, I'm in the middle of the country. Do you want us to have it, or do you want to help me build, all around the country and help me get somebody out here to run it? Well, no, we just kind of want you to have it in the Midwest, and it's like, well, I think that what you're looking for is more of a marketing tool for your company on the backs of Fire Department Coffee instead of a true outreach with nothing asked for.
Like what Rosenbauer did, just give and forget, receive and remember. Do you know what I mean?
That's
no
what I
expectation,
want. That blind faith is hard to come by, but it's what's built this, and I think it's what's going to keep it going. So I'm just patient, brother. I'm just patient, but.
So if people want to, if people are doing something meaningful themselves and they're willing to put themselves out there with no expectation on return, if they would do whatever, whether you record a video, you put together a PDF, you ask if you're part of something meaningful where you think, working with or promoting Fire Department Coffee, or just asking for some advice, or if you're doing something truly meaningful and you either want to get some advice or you want to do something that you think is going to matter to your community, there may be an opportunity for you to help Fire Department Coffee. There may be an opportunity, even if it's just ideas. Fire Department Coffee are not going to send free shit to everybody that sends Randy an email. So don't everybody just send Randy an email if you just want free shit. That's not what's going to happen.
I'd love to. It's too many emails. It's crazy.
We're going to do some sort of giveaway at some point in the future. We as the podcast are going to donate some money direct to the Charitable Foundation as well. So don't people think this is just a brand fucking whatever. We're going to do all that after it. But even if you just want to laugh, you want to feel better on a day when you're having a crap day, and you're going to have plenty of them in the fire service, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Follow some of the links underneath. Go and find out some more about Fire Department Coffee. Find out about Rescue One. There might be an opportunity for you to support in some capacity or another. I really appreciate your time, brother. Send my love to your good lady in the family. Send my love to Luke. Send my love to Jason. I look forward to having some shared adventures in the future, and I just really appreciate your time this morning.
Oh, Pete, thank you so much, man. It is a blessing to meet you and your team in Germany. It's so cool. It's just one of the many stories, and then your interest in that outreach. And when you speak to firefighters and they understand Rescue One's capabilities and its role, and you see them light up and understand it has a purpose, that's like the biggest compliment you could give me, man. So
and you see what's possible for them as well. Yeah. You know what I mean? Randy is not special. You could do something like this as well. Just show up and try and add value. I love you, brother. Let's catch up again soon, all right?
Thank you.
Well, that's it for today, folks. Hope you took a lot away from that episode. We started the Firefighters podcast to develop, inspire, connect, motivate, represent, and most importantly, celebrate the world of incredible emergency services operators and the wider sector through this series of wide-ranging conversations. We really love creating this podcast and bringing it to so many people. Did you know you can also find these on YouTube? We do a lot of video podcasts now. You can head over to our YouTube page and follow, subscribe there. And as a final ask from us, whatever platform you're on, please rate the podcast. It really helps us as a key performance indicator to reach more and more people. I've been your host, Pete Wakefield. This has been the Firefighters podcast. And wherever you are in the world, please stay safe, be happy, and where possible, please remember and support your firefighters and first responders. I'll see you next time.